Alastor woke up not knowing where he was. Little did he know he was now in the lands in between. But he is Alastor, the all-powerful radio demon. Alastor would quickly learn he was without his staff, and without it, he would find himself unable to use any of his powers. The threats of this new world were too strong for the radio demon, so the radio demon would be forced to run and hide. After a conversation with Wally, Alastor learned that he was far from the Hasbin Hotel. Although without a weapon, Alastor was still strong enough to damage others. He knew his fist would not be enough if he were to survive these lands in between. Alastor had a run with Rayleigh, who informed him that he was in fact now in the lands in between, and that if he wanted to get back to Charlie in the Hasbin Hotel, he would need to make deals with people, as each deal struck would grant him more and more power. Alastor, wasting zero time learning how to regain his strength, made a deal with Rayleigh, promising to defeat Sauron, returning the lands in between to normal. In exchange, he got himself a weapon and grew a little bit stronger from that deal. Although Alastor indeed grew in strength, he was still no match for Kizaru. Rayleigh had warned Alastor that his own kind had grown in power and would need to be slain. After losing the battle of Kizaru, Alastor knew he had to strike a new deal, and thus he met with Aragorn. They would team up together in the fight. In exchange for the deal being made, Alastor was given a talisman. With Kizaru defeated, Alastor proceeded through Stormville Castle until he met someone who claimed to be originally from the lands in between, who struck a deal with Alastor that for 20% of his vision, she would aid him in the fight against the anomaly that waited behind Fogmore. Alastor took the deal, and the two of them quickly defeated that anomaly. After the two parted ways, Alastor ran into a strange being. Then in exchange for death, Alastor would be granted his full vision back. Alastor took the deal, striking from behind. Making his way through Raya Lucario, Alastor met with another one of the people from Rayleigh's world. However, this time Alastor would need to take the fight alone. But alone, the radio demon would fall to Boa. Searching for more power, Alastor would meet with a blacksmith who struck a deal. In exchange for a second weapon. He would promise to meet with Ranni and bring upon the Age of Stars. Alastor would also meet with Dee, who promised if he delivered the death roots to the monster within the Bestial Sanctum, he would be granted even more power. After a long journey, Alastor kept his promise and met with the monster and gave the death root. With the new power of Alastor, he made easy work of Boa, when he would then struck a deal where Alastor would let her live with her baby in exchange for 2 more talismans. While traveling to meet with Ranni, Alastor would meet some of Sauron's guards, and after following them, he would quickly understand how powerful Sauron must be. But the journey to Ranni did not stop there, as the monster in the Bestial Sanctum had betrayed the radio demon, telling Sauron about Alastor's plan to regain his staff and save the lands in between. Of course, Alastor only cared about actually getting back to the Hasbin Hotel, but that did not stop Sauron from showing him what would await him if he continued in his journey. Despite the forewarning, Alastor would defeat Loretta, who was blocking the final pass to Ranni. And finally, meeting with the White Witch, she would tell Alastor the only way to bring upon the Age of Stars is to slay the General Sans and the natural-born Asatil. In exchange, if Alastor could defeat both, she would double the already power of Alastor. Alastor first took to Khalid, where people were already rallying to fight against the General Sans. Alastor, in exchange for a map that showed the way into Nokron City, Alastor promised to beat the general alone to save the people from Khalid from any more deaths at the hand of Sans. Here, Alastor made a name for himself as he executed Sans, gaining the passage into the underground city where Asatil awaited. After a few days of travel, Alastor found himself going across the Lake of Rot before coming face to face with the final obstacle and finally fulfilling his promise to the blacksmith to bring upon the Age of Stars. After slaying the natural born, Alastor would meet with Ronnie and be granted not only the strength promised, but yet another talisman. Before Randy would leave, she would tell Alastor that Blade knew who had Alastor's staff and to challenge him to a duel for the information. Alistair did just that, learning exactly who was in possession of his beloved staff that would make the radio demon complete once more. Making his way into the capital, Alistair became lost as he could not find the entrance to the underground, in which at the very bottom his staff was said to lay. So Alistair called upon Rayleigh once again, who agreed to give Alistair the name of the man who knew how to enter the underground. In exchange, Alastor would help Rayleigh defeat Kizaru one last time, as he had risen again and gained even more power than Rayleigh himself could face alone. Alastor, with all his new strength, agreed, and despite Kizaru gaining in strength as well since their last face-off, he was no match for the radio demon. Knowing he would face defeat, Kizaru would tell Alastor how to enter into the underground where Magellan would be found, but in the instant, Sauron would appear, striking down Kizaru for revealing this information. Even without his staff, though, Alistair was now strong enough with the help of Rayleigh to catch Sauron and his hand off guard and send them retreating this time. Making his way to the bottom of the mysterious well, Alistair would indeed find Magellan, who was in possession of his staff. Once again, wasting little time with this information, Alistair would strike him down. Although no lies were told and he was reunited with his staff, the weapon had no power at all, as Magellan was merely a clone of the real powerful being who had been casting a ritual on the staff trying to harness its power. It was not long before Alistair was able to locate the real Magellan, and despite all the power Alistair had grown into, this was by far the toughest fight yet, only managing to slay Magellan in a battle that will be told for generations. But now, with the power of his staff back, Alistair was once again truly the radio demon. With so much power, Alistair hunted down both the monster that betrayed him and the right-hand man of Sauron, Goku himself, who he ended the story of both before walking into the eyes of Sauron himself. But even the powerful Sauron, who every other being in the lands in between had feared, was no match for the true power of the radio demon. In Sauron's dying breath, he called upon Kaido, who was said to bring upon the end of the lands in between. But luckily for these lands, the demon, with harnessing his true power, just wanted to it up. Kaido was slain in exchange for defeating Sauron and stopping the almighty dragon Kaido. Ranni and Alistair together were able to return the lands back to normal and send Alistair home.